This is chapter 3 of my book, HUGS, Hearts United Gather Strength, available on Amazon. Link is in the description. Over the Rainbow Bridge. Everyone knows our pets become part of our family. There are times they try our patience like any family member, but we love them as unconditionally as they love us. They are there for us through our sorrows and our joys. Our pets cuddle with us and seem to know when we need them. They are a wonder. Losing a pet can bring as much grief into our hearts as anything else. I've seen children cry over a goldfish, and I've seen grown men weep over the loss of a dog. Our pets have such short lives, and so they should be cherished and enjoyed each and every day. We are blessed to have them with us. I am of the belief that once you adopt a pet, it's yours for life. Their every need is your responsibility, and they are not to be brushed aside when your life becomes too busy or it's inconvenient to have them around. They feel loss as much as we do, and maybe it's worse for them because they don't have the ability to reason or understand as we do. They put their total trust in us, and too often that trust is betrayed. For the pet that is loved through thick and thin, losing that pet to death is heartbreaking. Yet there is something very rewarding about knowing that you stood by them and gave them as much loyalty as they gave you. When my dad passed, I inherited his dog, Buddy. I didn't know much about Buddy. He was a big dog, and I would soon learn that while he wouldn't hesitate to protect his own, he was also gentle enough to allow kittens to sleep with him in the cold of winter. I was never quite sure of Buddy's age, and I think I undercalculated it. I remember the night he passed away. His breathing had been labored for several hours. The vet wanted a couple of $100 just to look at him. I will never understand why those in the health profession take an oath to help, and then it becomes all about the money. I kept my eye on Buddy, looking up his symptoms. Then I heard a pop. I looked to find him laying in the hallway, surrounded by blood, and he had thrown up. I woke my husband to move him gently to his blanket. I removed his collar and covered him with his favorite blankets. My husband went to warm up the car, but before he got back inside, I was kneeling there beside Buddy, rubbing his head, and I told him it was okay to go. I remember telling Daddy to come get him. I told Buddy to find Daddy and go to him, that it was okay. This next statement is a testament to how selfless our furry family members are. Now, Buddy had not been able to lift his head or move at all since he collapsed into the hall. But somehow he lifted his head and looked me in the eyes as if to say goodbye, before laying his head down and closing his eyes. I watched as his chest rose and sank for the last time, and he was gone. For me, losing Buddy was like losing my dad all over again. It was my job to look after him, and for some reason I felt that I had failed. But in another way, I was comforted by the fact that Daddy and Buddy were reunited. It was hard. I cried for weeks, and still do if I am reminded of it. Buddy was a good dog, and I know he's a playful pup again, running around heaven with my dad. And this is chapter 3, but it falls in the same category. This is Alicia's story about Cody. I've had pets, all my life, and even though no life is more valued than another, I just always had a more special place in my heart for my dogs. I've had a dog in my life since I was a little girl, and never have I ever gone through the heartache of losing one. In 2007, we adopted a yellow lab retriever pup from my aunt's neighbor, and he was the most beautiful golden puppy I had ever seen. We raised him, and he got into his fair share of trouble. Around the time he turned 7, he had gotten fat but happy. He wasn't chunky, but he had a larger belly than usual. Everything was normal. We had holidays and celebrated the coming of 2014 like we brought in every other year before that. A week after the new year came in, he started acting kind of weak. He was different, and we didn't really understand why. I had prayers from family and friends that knew him, and we all had our fingers crossed as we waited 6 long hours for him to return from the vet. My mother came home and explained that he had liver cancer, and there was nothing we could possibly do to save him. I don't know what was harder to come to terms with, his death or the fact that I didn't realize it sooner. I definitely had some roller coaster type emotions going on for a month, and I just didn't want to accept it. By the time his ashes were picked up and brought home, I think that's when I was able to understand that he was better off where he was now. It's not easy to lose a pet or a grandfather in 2005. I never had to do it before. As time passed on, looking at his things, places where he slept, and even saying his name became easier in time. I wouldn't say a heart becomes wounded from losing someone, but yet the ones we loved can finally join us in our heart and spirit, and that makes us sad or happy because part of us knows that it'll be okay. I don't know about others, but I feel stronger and more determined to do better in my life when things like this happen. I have some kind of push that just makes me strive onward and to tell myself that time goes on and I have to go on with it. His passing made me get off my tail end and get back into school. I still love my dear pet, and even to this day, I think about him all the time. It's okay to miss him. It's okay to cry. For if we don't cry, we don't heal. Rest in peace, Cody Bear. August 2007 to January 8th, 2014. You will be missed and always remembered. This young lady was 20 when she wrote this. You can't help but be impressed at the ability to learn the most important lesson of all, that life must and does keep moving forward. She took her grief and turned it into a successful step in her life's journey by enrolling into college. For her, losing her beloved pet strengthened her heart instead of wounding it. This story is a perfect example of using grief as a tool, and I am so grateful that she shared it with us.